All right, so this week we are learning about Google Sites. Google Sites is a very underused tool, and they have just completely revamped it in the last year. So if you haven't checked out the new Google Sites, this is for you. This is going to be an awesome tool for you to use with your students or to have students create sites as well. So let's talk about creating your Google site. There's two ways to do that. So you can just type in, as we've talked about before, sites.google.com, and it'll take you right to the Google Sites web page. But there's a little something tricky about this. This is the old Google Sites that you're seeing here. You might be able to tell just because kind of the colors and the text on the website looks a little bit older. And there's a little link down here that says New Google Sites. When I click that, I get taken to a much more familiar zone. So this is, what I'm used to seeing with all the other Google tools. That's one way to create a Google Sites, just to go to sites.google.com. Now, the other way to create a Google site is from within your Google Drive. You just do a new, go all the way down to more, and hit Google Sites. Now, the first thing you want to do when you create your Google site is give it a name and get it saved. So just like any other Google tool, everything will save as you're working, but you're going to have to give this one a little bit name. And this reminds me of Forms a little bit because there's a couple different places to name it. So we're just going to look at that. You can name the Google site up here in the top left corner. So I'm just going to call this Miss Shork's Classroom Site. And then down here, you'll see when I click here, this kind of copies that name. So either way, wherever you type it, this is the site name here, and then this is the file name or the site name as well. So it's going to be the same, those two things. What is here can be totally different. So if I call this Miss York's Classroom Site, that's what I see. But if I want to type here, Miss York's Classroom, I can do that. It can be different. So this is just the title of the website. Okay, now as soon as I've got it named, I'm ready to start adding pages and start adding other things. So we're going to get into all of that now. So let's talk about adding pages to your site. These are going to be the things where you can add different content to it, and you can organize these in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to go up to pages in the top right corner. Everything we're going to do on sites is going to be up here in one of these three zones. So we're going to start with pages. We have a home page. That's what you're looking at right now. That's where everyone lands. You can rename that home page. Go to properties, and you can give it a different name if you'd like. Now I'm going to go down, and I'm going to click this plus sign at the bottom. And this is probably, to me, the hardest thing to remember about Google Sites. So if that's the hardest thing, it's not so bad, is that the button to add things is kind of down here at the bottom all the time. So I'm going to add, let's do an About Me page. So I'm going to make an About Miss York page. And then I also want to make a page for class information. But I teach several classes, and so I actually want my class information to have other pages underneath of it. So I'm going to click these three little dots here, and I'm going to add a subpage. And I want you to watch what happens when I add a subpage. So I'm going to call this one 8th grade. Now, that immediately puts it underneath class information. So what's going on here? If you look up here in the top right corner of my page, and I'm on my 8th grade page now, but wherever I am, on home or class information, I've made a little navigation menu now that is based on my structure of pages here. And by adding a sub-page to class information, I've made a little drop down for myself here. Now let's say I add a page like 7th grade, but I didn't remember to put it under class information. I've left it out here all alone. All I have to do is take this and drag it right on top of class information, and I've now added it there. And if you're anal like me, you do not want 7th grade to be after 8th grade, so you can just rearrange those by clicking and dragging them around. So that's the basic structure for our pages here. We can have pages that are also hidden and some other things, so I'll just show you how to do that, but probably won't need to know how to do this for your test. So this is my About Me page, and I can click those three little dots, and you see I have a bunch of options here. I can make the About Me page the home page of the site, so that would put it back to home. I can make a copy of the page. When I go into properties, I can rename it, and I can actually make a custom link to it, but we're not going to get into all of that good stuff. We're just renaming here. I also can add other subpages like we've said, and I can hide it from the navigation. So that's what this means. If I don't want the About Me page to be popped up here, I can click here and say hide from navigation. This is really useful if you want to, let's say, right here on my home page, I want to say, click this link to find out more about me, and they can click it and it will take them here to this About Me page, but I don't want it actually up here in my menu. So there's sometimes you might want to do that. But that's basically all there is to adding pages. You're going to get all your pages added, and you can add some later, but the structure of the pages is really important, and you can sort, drag, and move things around as you need to. All right, so let's get to inserting items on our page. We are on the insert menu. As I've said before, we're staying in this 3 zones up here. The insert menu has several different options, so we're just going to run through them really quickly, and I'm going to create an About Me page as I do it. So first, on my About Me page, I'd really like to add a text box, and I'd like to talk a little bit about myself. All right, so I've typed some magic text here. Let's look at what I can do with this text. I can make things bold, I can make things italic, I can center, align, do all of that good stuff. I can make numbered and bulleted lists, and I can add a link. So if I want to, right here in the middle of Murray State University, put a link to Murray State's website, I can hit this insert link button, and I can type murraystate.edu. And let me type the whole thing out here. One of the things you're going to notice when you're putting a link in on your Google site is it actually gives you the pages in your Google site. So you could actually just link to another page that you own here. It's really handy. So I'll put that Murray State link there. Now, I have some other text options. I can make this a title. I can make this a heading, I can make it a subheading, and we're going to get into the theme and colors here in just a second because you don't have a ton of options with themes and colors, but that's okay. We're going to have just enough just for what we need. So that's basically all of the text options I have. You see how there's just not very many things? If you know a little bit of HTML code, then that little thing right here won't scare you, but you can code your font a little bit more if you'd like to, but we'll get into the colors in a minute. So I've added my piece of text. What else do I need on this page? Let's add some pictures. So I'm going to go in the top right and click on images, and I'm going to see the same kind of options I'm used to seeing. I can paste an image website. I can search Google for images. So if I just want to search for a tiger, good practice here to check on your own, identity. Type in Whitney York, put some quotations around it and see what you get. Not very much, so that's good. I like to see that. And then you have albums here. You can use pictures from your albums, and then of course pictures from your Google Drive. One of the things that happens when you click on Google Drive is it does a search for only images. So I'm immediately going to see the pictures that I have in my drive and nothing else. And if I remember right, I have some pictures in this personal folder. Let's take a look. Yep. So I can add some pictures here. Let's add my Bitmoji. And once I get a picture in, I have a few options as well. Everything pops up above the thing you're working on. So you'll notice this picture dropped in below my text. I can move it next to my text. And this is a really important thing to notice. As I'm moving stuff around, you see these blue lines, you see these things popping up. These are all guides to help you. So if I want this picture to be over here, I can do that. I can drop it right next to my text, and it drops it in. Now I want that picture to be bigger, so I'm going to make my text shorter. I'm going to drag that and move it around, and I want to make my picture bigger. Now I want to keep my picture proportional, so I'm going to drag it this way, and let's see if we can get it all in there. There we go. And then I'm going to go back, adjust my text, and make sure everything fits, but you see what I'm doing here. On this picture, I can actually hit crop, and I can move these little blue guides, or I can move my picture around inside of that size that I've made it. So watch what happens here. Let's make it small. Let's make it not fit. And then when I click crop, I can say, okay, I want you to just take this part of the picture here. And that's how I make it fit. Now I'm going to make it big again. This next little thing is to uncrop, so that would undo what I had done, and then we can make this picture have a link. So if I want this link to take me to Google Drive, I can just type drive.google.com, and that will make sure anybody that clicks on that picture gets taken to that link. Of course, we have the trash can to get rid of the picture, and a few more options here. We can add a caption at the bottom of this picture. So if we're going to describe what's in it, okay, and that's basically it. That's how you add a picture. Being able to drag and move things around is probably the most important thing learned here, making sure that you can put things in. Now, we're not going to really talk about embed code very much, but I'm going to show you an example of embed code. This is an example of embedded code. This is a Twitter feed. This is my Twitter feed embedded on a Google site. So embedding simply means we take an object from somewhere else and we embed it on the page. And you may even hear me say we're going to embed a YouTube or we're going to embed some text, because I might use those words interchangeably. But truly embedding something means getting code from a certain site. And in this case, you get a code from Twitter and you click on the embed link. So let me go back to my original Google site. You click this embed link. You paste the big long amount of code that you did not write, and you paste that in, and then you can insert that object into your Google site. You have complete control over resizing it and making it look like however you want, but this is a great way to embed a YouTube channel, a Twitter feed, a Facebook page, if you have a social media site or you're making a Google site for like a sports team or an event or something of that nature. So great way to embed. All right, so what else can we add to our Google site? Well, if you made it in Google, you can put it in your site. So I'm just going to run down the rest of these options really quickly. First, we have a little divider. This is literally just a line that kind of divides the page in half. Then we have all of our Google options. You can see I have Google Drive right here, so let's start with that. When I click on Google Drive, I get every bit of content in my drive. I can find something I want and just drop it in. So let's say I'm going to drop in this. Let's do... I'm trying to not do something with student names on it. Let's just do this alumni field at Carrie Miller. This is a picture, but I could also do this presentation. I could also do the spreadsheet. So you click all these different little things and then click insert. So I just dropped in a picture and then I dropped in a presentation. They look a little bit different. With a presentation dropped in, you can see there's different slides. Again, I can resize. I can move any object. As I move it, things will get resized. So just be aware of that. Now, I'm going to skip these three for just a second and go down to the bottom, because all of these things are also things from your drive. But what happens when you click on any one of these is it specifically looks for just those things in Drive. So if I want to embed a form into my Google site, I can either click on Drive or I can click on Forms, but Forms is going to just show me my forms, so it's a little handy. So there's my May 22nd PD form. I can make it as big or as small as I want to, and we'll see what all of this looks like when the site is live here in just a second. People are going to be able to scroll through this and see it. Now, one thing I'm going to mention right here is about permissions. All of these things that I've just added are completely public, or anybody with the link can view them. So they are out there and they're able to be viewed by anybody on my website. But if you add in a slide presentation that is private, or a form that is not published, or a Google Doc that nobody else can see, then anybody that looks at your website is going to get an error. They're not going to be able to see that document or that slide presentation. So before you add anything to your Google site, you're going to want to make sure that that item has the correct sharing permissions, that it's shared so that anyone with the link can view. Otherwise, this is going to be a bummer, because you're just going to get an error message on all of these different documents. Okay? Now let's talk about our last three embed things. We can embed from Google YouTube videos. So let's just search for, we did photosynthesis last week, so let's do photosynthesis. I can just grab a video and pop it in, resize it to any size that I want. Done. And you'll see this little gear here as well. If you see a gear, there are some settings that you can change. So for instance, I can change the progress bar. That literally just shows how the bar along the bottom as it's playing. I can change the color of that. And then I can hide the controls, and I can allow full screen on or off. So different ways to do just your YouTube video settings. I can add in a Google Calendar. So let's say you've got a Google Calendar for your sports team and you want to add that Google Calendar in so that everybody can see it. You can totally do that. So I'm just going to grab, let's actually grab one that's got some stuff on it. So let's grab the gym at Murray High School. I'm going to click Insert, and it's going to drop the calendar in an agenda view where I just see a list of the events, but I can click my little gear and I can change all of those options. I'm going to switch it to month view because I want to see the whole thing. And there we go. There's my month view of my calendar. I can make it nice and big, spread it out so we can actually read the events, and my calendar's embedded. Now, all of these things we're dropping in, these are live embeds, which means this calendar is going to change. Somebody's going to add something to it today, and so I can do that. I can see a live view of this Google Calendar at any time. This is not just a snapshot in time. It's a live link to a Google Calendar. So powerful. Very last thing we can add in is a map. So let's just do, I'm going to do the board office, Murray, Kentucky. I can add a map to something. Say you're doing a business or you're showing kind of where you are. I click select, and there's a map to that event. And then I can put some text around it and explain what it is. So lots of different things that we can insert. I'm going through those kind of quickly, but the main thing is if you made it in Google, you can put it on a Google site. And imagine how powerful it is for students to have one place to go to view videos, all of the tools that they need. Google Classroom is great, but every time you post something in Google Classroom, it gets pushed down. So if it's something the kids need to access all the time, Google Sites is a great way to do that. Imagine making a site for parents or a site for your sports team or a club. It is a great way to make that kind of connection with all of those Google tools. All right, so we're going to talk about in the next video about making this look a little bit prettier. So let's talk about customizing your Google site. I'm just going to kind of do a broad overview of all the different places you can customize your site. Let me go back to my home page. In the top right corner, let's start with themes. There are not a lot of themes, and they are not very fancy. So you have only a certain level of control over the site, and I'll show you kind of how to get more granular control. But start by picking your theme. You pick this theme, and then you'll notice underneath the theme there'll be a series of colors. You can change the color of that theme. If you don't like the colors that are there, which I never do, let's go to this one. You click this little paint bucket and you can choose any color in the rainbow that you want. So they give you a little bit of control here. You also see a font style option, and you only have a couple options for each of the themes, so not a whole lot of control over the fonts. So in some ways this is really great because if you're doing this with a student project or you're having students create a site, you really don't have to sit there all day while they pick out their colors, because that can be a whole day or two. But for you, if you want a little bit more control, you just don't have it a whole lot in Google Sites. It's just very simple. All right, so we're going to stick with this theme. Now, this header image, I'm on my home page, I can change this image on the background. So let's go to change image, and I'm going to hit up select image. And you'll notice they give me kind of a gallery of pre-formatted images that'll all work good as the header. I can also search the web and find my own header image. So I like to just do kind of like generic searches like this. And then it gives me some different textures and things I can use. So let's say I want to grab this watercolor from Google, and I hit select. And that's about it. You can see it's kind of adjusting. There you go. It adjusted my colors of my font and everything because it could tell that my background was a little bit lighter, but it's very, very simple. I have header type right here. I can click that and I can change kind of how that front page looks. So I can have a big banner, I can have a small banner, or I can just have the title only. All right, so let's stick with that. Let's go over to our About Me page and take a look at what that's changed. You'll notice that my colors and my theme and my fonts changed, but my header didn't change. So if I would like to have a different header type or a different header color here, I can do that. So I'm just going to leave this one be, and let's look at some of the sections on the site. You'll notice as you were kind of moving through your Google site, I have kind of sections here. So I have like a section of items here, a section of items here. And out to the left, I have these different section options. So how things are organized into sections is going to give you a little bit more control. So let's click on my little artist palette here, my section. And you can see I have just a regular, emphasis, emphasis 2, or I can pick an image. So it's hard to tell on this one, but what it basically was doing is regular kind of left my images white background, emphasis blended everything together that it could, and emphasis 2 was the bright color. Now I can't change anything more than that, except for that I can pick an image out that I like. So I can pick an image and then it will adjust my items on top of that image. So it does give you a little bit more control. Now you can do that on any section. You can change each section to be different. So if you want things to be in different sections so that you can color them differently, you just drag them down so they're not next to each other, and that's how you create different sections. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about any other color options that you may see. You're not going to see very much more on Google Sites. The only thing I want to point out to you is that you do have an option to add a logo. And a logo is something that appears on your site everywhere, and it'll also show up in the top left-hand corner of the website. You see how these all have little logos? That's your logo. So I'm going to select a logo. Let's just look in my albums in Google Drive and see if we can find something here that I can use as my logo. I'll use the M. Okay, so when I add that logo, you'll see where it's going to go. It's going to go in the top header bar, and I can adjust. It actually wants me to adjust my theme to match the logo, so it pulls the colors out of the logo, so that's kind of cool. But basically, that's it. You drop your logo in there, and now when you would go to your site, you're going to see that little logo on every single page. So it's just a way to be consistent across the top of the page. But that's about all the color options that you have. You really just change the sections, change the theme, and that's it. All right, so you get your site looking great, and now you're ready to share it with people. Let's talk about how you can share it with other people and some of the other settings on the site. So first of all, this is Google. So you could take anything that you create and have other people as editors on your site. So this little person in the plus, you've seen that. That's your share button. If I want to give somebody else rights to be able to edit and work with this site, just type in their email, and then I can change their rights. So do I just want them to be able to view the site? Do I want them to be able to add and do things to it? You can work with multiple people on a Google site. Okay. Now, that's not just how we share it with normal people. So when a normal person wants to see my site, what I actually want to do is publish this site and give people the link. So let's look at what that looks like. This is an unpublished site. I've never hit publish before. So the first time I click publish, I'm actually going to name my site. I'm going to give it a web address. So here is the beginning part of the site, the sites.google.com/murray.kyschools.us, and then I get to customize the end of it. So let's just change this to something really simple, because I still don't expect people to be able to type all of this beginning part in, but at least the end part I'm going to remember is a little bit simpler. Now down here at the bottom, I want to change who can view my website. And you can make it so that that site, here we go, right here, the published site can be viewed by anyone on the web, anyone at Murray Independent, or only specific people. So just kind of like our settings with other things, but slightly different. In a website, you usually don't want people to have to log in to see it. So you're probably going to want to change this to anyone can find and view. If you leave it on the Murray Independent, then someone will have to log in with a Murray Independent link or a Murray Independent account to view it. So we're going to go with anyone, and I'm going to click done. Now I've named my site here. I'm going to click publish, and then I want to take a look at it. So after it publishes, I'm going to be able to either click this view button down here at the bottom, or I can click this eyeball, and it will show me a preview version of my site. And one of the cool things about the preview version here is down in the bottom, I can preview what this is going to look like on a phone, on a tablet, or a regular computer. So if you want to see kind of how your pages are going to work, this is exactly what it would look like on a phone. It's pretty neat. Let's go back. Now that I've published my site, I can also click View Published Site, and this actually takes me to the true link of the website, so you can see the link up here. It's not really just a preview mode. So a couple different ways to look at what it looks like real. And then, as always, after you've published, if you want to change any settings, you can go here and click Publish Settings, change the name of your site. And then just one thing to keep note of, I have published this site right now. If at this moment I decide that I'm going to add in a YouTube video on this page, and I'm going to add in a text box, that does not appear on my live site because I have to click Publish again. So one of the cool things is that you can actually work on Google Sites without it being live at this moment. So when I go to my published site here, you see my 7th grade page is blank. I actually have to click Publish again. It forces my page into publishing mode. And now when I look at my site, those items are going to be there. They're going to be published out there for everybody to see. Okay? Maybe not. I need to click it. There we go. All right, so that's publishing your Google site, sharing it with others. And the last thing I'm going to show you is how to get the link to your Google site to share with others. So that big long thing, if you don't want to have to remember it, click this little link right here. That's the link to this page that I'm specifically on, and I'm going to click copy link, and then I can paste it somewhere else and share it with other people. Now remember, this is the link to the page that you're on. So that copied the link for the 7th grade page. If I want to do the link to the home page, I need to be on the home page when I copy it. Okay, so that is how you copy your link to your page. That's pretty much it. That's Google Sites.